Welcome to my kitchen table. I imagine you probably have something like this in your house. And once a month or so, you have to sit down and have the dreaded money conversation. And it's a discussion that goes something like this. How much money do we have? Okay, great. How much money do we owe this month? And then somebody loses their mind, right? Oh crap, we owe that much, that's a lot of money. And then how can we make more money? You then spend 20 minutes scheming ways to pay down debt, lower your expenses, and continue to have a conversation about how we can save more money. But at the end of the day, we're all just still caught in the rat race. That's where my wife and I were at a few years ago. I was 33 and awaiting the arrival of my first daughter, or my first child. And after another frustrating dinner table conversation, we ended up back in that same conversation around how can we make more money. I ended up going on a little bit of a Google bender, I'll call it, and diving really deep into what are different ways that people are successful at getting out of the rat race, escaping, making sure that they can have more at the end of the month than they need to spend on the basic expenses. And I was determined to crack this problem once and for all. I knew that there had to be a better way to provide for my family than simply job hopping and trying to fight my way up the corporate ladder, hoping for promotions that never seemed to happen. After chasing several threads, everything kept seeming to come back to one simple little purple book. Everyone that read it seemed to rave about it and talk about how it was life-changing and really been the reason that they had found a lot of success. So I bought it and stayed up all night reading it, and to my pleasant surprise, they were right. It was pretty transformative. There were a lot of very brain-melting ideas that transformed what I had thought possible. There were a lot of things that I had never considered before, and it really set up a roadmap for where I could look at things differently in terms of money in and money out each month. In short, the book motivated me and set fire to the path that I would ultimately develop over the next few years. As you've probably guessed, the purple book is what gave me the blueprint to follow the path that I did in real estate and building out my real estate portfolio. Over the next few years, I started buying single family homes, rental properties, and I built up my portfolio to 6 properties. Honestly, 6 properties was probably my limit. I really felt that I was stretched to manage these properties at that point, and I started to get the sense that this wasn't necessarily going to be my path towards financial freedom, acquiring one of these every 6 months or so. It was in that time frame of me starting to get a little frustrated with the amount of work that these properties were taking to maintain and find new tenants and deal with all of the toilets and pressures of being a landlord, that I actually had a solution kind of fall in my lap. I had a property manager who had been associated with some of those properties, and he was going to sell a small multifamily for way under market. It was $196,000, 6-unit apartment complex. And that was what kind of made it click for me that with some scale in multifamily, there were some real options to move and grow much faster. It was going to take me just as much time to do the transaction of borrowing and setting up the negotiations around the single family home as it was to buy 6 more units. But 6 more units was going to happen to grow my passive income at a much faster rate. So for a novice investor, this probably would have thrown up a lot of red flags. I mean, the neighborhood, the condition of some of the property units. But I had a little secret that I had uncovered in some of my research, and that is that a single family home, the price and value of it is associated with the comparable homes in the neighborhood. So if your neighbor sells his house or her house for $200,000 and you have the same kind of house, your house is probably worth $200,000. Until things change, until other people in the neighborhood sell at a different price. Any multifamily or apartment complex is actually valued completely differently. It's based on the performance of the asset. And when this property manager reached out to me, I realized that they were leaving a lot on the table in terms of operational performance. How much money could they get for rents, and how much expenses could they minimize? In particular, I found a lot of success in my career so far focusing on how to keep those expenses to a minimum. So it's cool. The research that I'd been spending lots and lots of time on, the podcasts, the books, the conversations with people that were in the business, it was starting to pay off. And I took this first 6-unit complex, I actually bought a second one, and I used that as my foray to enter into apartment buildings. I started to shift out of the single family realm and started to sell off some of my units that I had acquired over the last few years, and into this realm that didn't give me as much of night sweats, didn't keep me up late at night worried about what was going to happen. I really enjoyed working on and improving the operation and performance of apartment complexes. Over the next 5 years, I would go on to purchase 10 more apartment complexes, just under 2,000 units, and just over $56 million in assets under management. Over the years, I continued to grow as an investor, and I would learn to find the best locations to invest in, as well as the best way to analyze and understand operations and find apartment complexes where there was a lot of room for improvement. But most importantly, I developed a 5-step framework that I've been using to determine whether an apartment investment is worth my time or whether I should throw it out of the boat and continue to move on. And I'd like to share it with you because I think it's really changed my perspective to have a nice framework to follow when looking at different investments. The framework has changed my life, and I think I could share it with you, and hopefully it'll have the same impact on yours. I just want to be a resource for you on your journey, so schedule some time with me today and start your journey tomorrow. Thank you so much for spending time listening to this. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to getting to know you a little better. Thank you.